For latest updates and short audio clips, follow us on Instagram, Reading the Author.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Reading the Author, a unique show where we read authors' mind and not their book. Meanwhile, I truly believe and pray that you and your families are completely safe and healthy as well. Guys, today we have Niharika Nigam ma'am with us, and she is the author of Joy of Missing Out. Thank you so much ma'am for coming on our show. I'm truly grateful कि आप हमारे show पर आए.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited about the podcast today.
Likewise, ma'am. So, ma'am, before we get into the podcast and know much more about your book, about your upcoming projects and everything, I would request you to please introduce yourself so that our listeners can know much more about you. And do let us know how you started this writing journey.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Niharika Nigam. I am actually the director business development of Jumpin' Heights The Bungee People, which was India's first extreme adventure zone. It was set up back in 2010, and we have a bungee location in Rishikesh and in Goa. And the reason I'm talking about that right now is because that actually became the theme and the foundation of my story. So, जैसे कि आपने पूछा कि how did I really get into the writing journey? It's first of all, I think I always process the world in terms of very poetic language and writing. That's how I generally process everything that's going on around me. I've always been a writer at heart. But ये जो कहानी है of Joy of Missing Out, it's because over the last decade, मतलब मैं जब से मेरी पढ़ाई खत्म हुई है and I have been working, I've just seen so many transformations take place on the edge. तो कहते हैं ना कि life begins on the edge, so I think that is something that has actually been a really big part of my life, and I wanted to, we've of course made a record of, for adventure tourism in India. Wow. We've had over 150,000 jumpers,
wow.
which is the global record for India in adventure. But kya hai? I think that, when we talk of big numbers, we forget to realize that within those numbers, each one of them is its own story. So I wanted to really give it its due. I took, the journey of a jumper and the relationship that they have with the jump master right at that moment on the edge. And I wanted to make it into a fiction story that people could carry back with them home forever.
Okay, ma'am. So I'm talking from a new reader's perspective, because after listening to this podcast, many people will just love to explore this book. So what a new reader can expect from this book, can you share some insights with us?
Yes, absolutely. So the idea of this novel was really to, take on a story which is about an adventure. Okay. So it begins with the protagonist who accidentally forms a friendship with a jump master in Rishikesh. So the protagonist is based in Delhi. She forms like a pen pal, like a modern day version of a pen pal. She starts talking to this jump master on Instagram. So the first half of the novel is actually, it is an exchange DMs where the conversation starts between her. She is shown as this woman with fears and he sells courage for a living. And the conversation eventually spans the distance between Delhi and Rishikesh, between the fear of missing out and the joy of missing out. And the story is really, at the heart of it, it's a metaphor where like the bungee jump becomes the ultimate metaphor for taking the leap of faith in life.
Okay. So as we can see, ma'am, that you have written another book, and that is 3, 2, 1 Jump, right?
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about the people who have already read both of your books. So what they can expect from you as of now? You want to experiment a bit on some other genres too, or you want to stick to only these only? What's in the pipeline?
So first of all, this is actually the same book. 3, 2, 1 Jump was the first edition. It then eventually got acquired by a new publisher called New Voice. It is Kevin Missel's new venture, and we're very, very lucky to be working with him because he is an expert. He is, he's a bestseller himself, so he brings a lot of expertise to the table as a publisher. So the same book was then acquired, and then it has been kind of re-edited in the sense that जब भी कोई नए publishers या नए editors आते हैं, so they have a different perspective of how they would like to position the novel. So in this case, the biggest change was the relationship arcs were really deepened. So again, I had to really delve into understanding the science of relationships, and that was a very insightful journey for me as a writer. And the second part, of course, is that पहली किताब जो आई थी, it was written from third person, and this one is now really written from the protagonist's mind chatter perspective. So it is written in first person. So I think that it really just intensifies the reading experience, and that is what brings us to the joy of missing out. But yeah, this is essentially my first novel. I would like to venture out into other spaces. It's just that for my first, I wanted to kind of play up on my strengths, and that really is an understanding of the human psychology when it comes to
Definitely.
fears, when it comes to standing on the edge.
Okay. So let's say if you have written like a couple of books more and आज से अगर 1-2 साल बाद कोई देखे कि ठीक है it's a new book by निहारिका मैम और उसने आपकी सारी बुक्स पढ़ी हुई
जी
ऑलरेडी. So what
जी
exactly उसके रीडर में वो sudden thought आना चाहिए, because what I have personally felt that most of the authors are working towards making their name as a certain brand कि उनको लोग
या
एक certain genre, एक certain type of author के तरीके से जाने. So when it
या
comes to you,
या
have you ever thought about this personal branding kind of thing?
देखिए जब पहली किताब आई थी उसके बाद में lot of people asked me if I would write a sequel, and the reason for that is just that sequels are a really good way for authors to really make money, for them to really cash in on the popularity that their first book has received. But I don't really see my writing journey as really from that lens. मतलब मैं ये कोई एक बहुत ही ज्यादा commercial standpoint के end से नहीं कर रही हूँ. So I want to take that liberty and really keep breaking stereotypes, because I think the moment I keep writing the same story, अब ये कहानी को भी edit होते होते since the acquisition, then the edits and the drafts, 4 साल हो गए हैं इस कहानी को. So as a creative person, I also want to explore something new, and I really hope that I keep surprising myself. तो जैसे आप मुझे पूछ रहे हैं कि will there be a trademark to my writing? I hope that is really in the writing style, and I hope that that is something that the readers really enjoy, because that to me is my personal forte.
Okay.
That's what I think of it as. But I don't want to get limited to any niche.
Definitely, ma'am, because that's what I personally feel too. Because let's say if we are into let's say some thriller writing as of now, but अगर वो image बन गई and certainly we want to break that out, then definitely it can be quite difficult for us. So what I personally expect, or what I suggest, that at least whatever I'm writing, you will get the authenticity in my writing, and that you will be able to relate with me. That's it.
Yes, precisely.
Okay. So, ma'am, as of now, like, what's your current writing schedule? Every day you devote some particular hours to your writing, or it's like random कि कभी कोई thought आया तो phone में डायरी में लिख लिया, बाद में बैठ के उसे elaborate कर रहे हैं. How does it goes with you?
That's a very interesting question, और मैं इसको बहुत honestly answer करने वाली हूँ. जब मैं किताब लिख रही थी, every book I think takes an author a certain amount of time. Now for me, I took about a year and a half to write my first draft, like to have my first novel ready, and उस duration में I would make it a point to write every single day, and I had a mental goal to reach every single day. But since the book has gotten done, it's completed, it's out in the market, what surprised me was the amount of pressure there was to really translate your novel into like social media, to really make it presentable, to make teasers, to kind of excite readers to really go and pick up the book, and a lot of that marketing is really happening through social media. So जब मैंने सोचा था, I thought by this point I would have started my second novel, but the marketing has actually taken a lot more time than I realized earlier on. So अभी काफी जो मैं general writing लिखती हूँ, it's for my Instagram, and I make it in that format, so which is very short, it's very easily digestible, it will have the hook in the first 3 seconds, it will have a maximum duration of 40 seconds. So my writing right now is kind of focused a little bit on Instagram, because I think getting that audience is really more from there. But in general, ये जो आप कह रहे हैं notes की बात, I think I'm a very chaotic writer. Sometimes I'm out and I just suddenly see something that really inspires me. I need to make a note of it right then and there, so that I can kind of hold on to that thought. So मेरे notes हमेशा चलते रहते हैं.
And as it is said that creativity is something that follows you. You can't chase it. So
yes, precisely. You really cannot chase it. It really has to come to you.
So, ma'am, as you said that there's a lot of time you are particularly investing in when it comes to marketing. So what I have personally seen that after the first lockdown was over, the numbers of author got increased very rapidly. Like there was a boom in this book industry. So as you have completed this whole journey, so according to you, how hard it has become to make a book stand out in the market? Because every week we can say hundreds of books are being published on Amazon. So definitely it has become quite a chaotic market as of now. So what's your take on this?
There is no doubt about that. There is a lot of noise in the market, and अगर आप बहुत ही बड़े pages को देखने जाएंगे, जैसे कि which are run by celebrities, which have like a mass audience, जो authors जो celebrities बन चुके हैं over the last few decades, if you really go and see all of their pages, I think there is a lot of gatekeeping that happens also. I think most people prefer to at least posture themselves as brands that support international travelers. I think international writers, because I think they feel like it gives them a very global appeal. But in the process, Indian authors के लिए मैं specifically बहुत कम support देखती हूँ जो organic होता है. आप जो भी चीजें आप online देखते हैं, I don't think readers realize this, but most of them are paid. Audience is a lot of times it's extremely मतलब आप मुझे अगर एक as a writer एक platform चाहिए to showcase my novel, most of the places that you will see me at will probably be paid in some way or another by me as a writer. So it has become a very expensive hobby to have, to be honest. And yes, there is a lot of noise, especially after the lockdown. Even my novel is a lockdown baby. I mean, that's the time that I had the time to really sit down and pen my thoughts, like a lot of others. So yes, I mean, उस टाइम पे बहुत किताबें आई हैं. अब मैं जब से lit fest में जा रही हूँ वगैरह वगैरह. I think it just takes persistence, honestly, and वो persistence में ही आधे authors do drop back because at some point you're going to realize that the investment is not worth it. It's going to be too heavy on your pocket, or it is taking too much time. It's demanding too much of your time, and maybe it's not giving you the results that you expect. So उसमें बहुत सारे authors really drop off just in that queue of trying to market their books. So persistence is really going to be the differentiating factor, I feel, for any particular book or any particular author to stand out.
Okay. So as of now, ma'am, like we have talked about your book, about your journey, about your upcoming projects and everything. Now let's talk about something related to your personal life. Like there must be a lot of moment which you tag as the happiest moment of my life. So if you can share any one of them with us, then that would be really great.
Yes, I would love to. I actually have to say, I think that this book has really given me that. So I think काफी aspects में writing as a commercial venture can be extremely underwhelming. ठीक है, जैसे आपने कहा पहले भी, a lot of people really get into writing for brand building. A lot of people get into it because they think it's going to bring them fame. A lot of people get into it because they think it's going to bring them money. I think on all those fronts it can be extremely underwhelming. However, for me, I got into writing really for the joy of writing. And ऐसे भी बहुत सारे writers को मैं मिली हूँ, and बहुत सारे writers exist, because it is really the art of writing really comes from a place of expression. So उस हिसाब से I think that it really provided me a journey which is like no other. When my initial novel came out, I think that having my entire family there and really celebrating it as a personal milestone was one of the happiest days of my life. जब मेरी पहली किताब 321 Jump आई थी, we had it was launched in Delhi by my publishers. At that time it was launched by Chetan Bhagat, and my entire family was there. It was the happiest day of my life.
Okay, definitely, ma'am. So let's get back to the time when you heard that tomorrow your book will be live, right? So on that particular eve, what was going on in your mind? Were you relaxed, excited? You just marked up some milestones. Okay, these many people know me. My book has to be sold out. These many copies. What was going on in your mind?
So I'm going to talk about the joy of missing out here, जो कि the second edition है. It was supposed to be released in the end of Feb, okay? And we had planned, okay, I'll come to Delhi. We'll probably do a little like a reading session and everything. And suddenly I get a call from the publisher that वो World Book Fair हो रहा था in Delhi. So because the book was already done, they worked overnight and made sure that my book was out before that. And they called me about 2 days after the event started, and they said, "Why aren't you here?" I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to be there." They said, "Your book has already released." And I was in shock, but I was extremely excited because, it was not planned. None of it was planned. But the kind of exposure that it gets an author, or the kind of exposure it gets a book, is really unmatched. So, of course, I did everything in my power, and I made sure that I was there the next day. I live in Nashik, so for me to go from Nashik to Delhi is a flight away. So I did. The next afternoon, I was at the World Book Fair, and I'm so glad I was, because it was a really intense experience. मतलब हमें वहाँ पे, you're actually meeting your readers. You're meeting people who are really excited about the book. They're really excited about meeting authors. So every single day, I would love being there, and we actually sold out. I mean, my novel had to be replenished on the second last day because हम लोग जो quota वहाँ पे लेके जाते हैं, my novel was sold out over there. So and that is all thanks to the branding and the cover and all of it that goes into making a book. I was very very fortunate to have that happen. But हाँ मतलब क्योंकि it was pretty overnight for me. ये था कि I wanted to कि मैं क्या बातें करूंगी with the readers, what are the author sessions that I will hold, I have not planned any marketing, what am I supposed to do, etc. And by this point I realized that ये numbers रख के कोई फायदा नहीं है mind में कि मुझे इतनी copy sell करनी है इतना कुछ, because it's so dependent on the situation, it's so dependent on so many factors. And also मुझे लगता है कि क्यों हो, मेरी पहली किताब है, क्यों मैं बेस्ट सेलर बन जाऊं एक किताब के साथ में, जब authors have been in the market, they've been struggling for the last 20 years, 30 years to gain the fame and to gain the audience that they have. I think it's the audacity of a new creator to really think you're going to be an overnight success, as if like the world has not discovered my talent, and जैसे कि बाकी लोगों में talent है ही नहीं, which is really the farthest thing from the truth. So I'm here to put in the work, and I'm just happy to be part of the journey.
So, ma'am, as of now, as an author, as a person, what are the things which you are focusing upon in life?
So now I think, as an author, I'm really trying to build my audience, my relationship with readers. I think this is a mistake I made the first time around. Okay, I wrote the book and I thought that okay, ab readers automatically aa jayenge, and my bit is done over there, and that's really not how it works. So now I've realized that so much of writing and the business of publishing today is really about community building. So I focus heavily now in terms of कि मैं readers के साथ में as an individual एक relationship बनाऊं, so that they know who I am, they understand the credibility that I bring to the table, and why am I really an authority to speak about the things that I'm speaking about. So I think that to really express that and to really showcase that is really my job as an author. Not like the publisher cannot do it, my book cannot do it for me. I have to do that. I have to do that just through my personality or through my way of engaging with readers and with people. So this time around I'm really focusing a lot on community building. I do love my work, and I do think that in the last year, especially after COVID, when the book was coming out, my work was also suffering a little bit. So now I'm kind of shifting gears, and I'm trying to rebalance my work and writing both together.
Okay. So, ma'am, probably my last question to this podcast is, after listening to this podcast, many people will just love to start writing, or they must be holding their first draft in their hand, in the laptop, in the diary. So what would be your advice for those upcoming authors?
So for all upcoming authors, I think my only one piece of advice would be to stop trying to be relatable to everybody. I think that this was a mistake that I was making, क्योंकि जब आप you're trying के सब आपसे agree करें, तब आप कुछ नहीं लिख पाएंगे. So I think that this was a writer's block for me. It caused a writer's block for me for a very, very long time. And I realized that, ultimately there will be people who are going to not agree with what you're saying, who are going to have a different perspective, who are going to question, okay, who are you to really start writing about it, So I think that you as an individual, to really have a say, to really, you occupy the same amount of space under the sun as anybody else. So अगर आपका एक opinion है, you should just be unabashed about it. You should be extremely open about it, and just write from your heart instead of trying to play to the gallery. और ये बहुत होता है, especially after your first novel has released. When you realize the marketing is so tough, when you realize that gaining readership is so tough, when you realize that competition is so tough, you want to write what sells. Which is really not that difficult. I mean, अगर आप पता करें and आपको बहुत advice देने वाले भी बहुत मिल जाते हैं, who will tell you कि आप ऐसे लिखोगे तो you will get a lot of eyeballs. अगर आप ऐसे लिखोगे so this sells or that sells, or scandal sells or romance sells or whatever. But if that is not your space, then you'd rather create another niche for yourself. Because the moment that you start writing, you're playing to the gallery, you're writing for an audience, you're writing like to sell, you've lost your authenticity.
Okay, so that's all for today, guys. I hope you must have enjoyed this lovely and inspiring conversation with Niharika ma'am. And if you do, then do follow our podcast, Reading the Author, available on all the leading podcast platforms. And don't forget to buy and read the book. Just Amazon पे जाए, वहाँ पे सर्च करें निहारिका निगम, या फिर आप बुक का नाम सर्च कर सकते हैं जॉय ऑफ मिसिंग आउट। मैम की बुक आ जाएगी, ज़रूर खरीदें, पढ़ें और अपने चाहने वाले जानने वालों से ज़रूर शेयर करें। थैंक यू सो मच मैम फॉर कमिंग ऑन आवर शो. इट वॉज माई ऑनर टू बी एबल टू होस्ट इट टुडे.
Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure being here.